Hey guys, Ronnie here from Cold Blood Creations with Anna joining me this morning. We have been getting a lot of messages lately about a particular topic that it seems that a lot of people are having issues with or having some problems with, and that is the topic of bearded dragons eating salads.
Yeah, or not eating salad.
Or rather, yes, not eating salad. Seems to be that many of you guys have issues with your dragons not eating salads. So we wanted to spend a little time this morning talking about this, seeing if we can maybe help you guys out. Now, I think the first thing we need to do is to define salad. We need to define what that means.
Right. So for salads for us, we feed our dragons mustard greens, collard greens. We have a garden, so we grow a lot of our own vegetables, but of course you can get them at the grocery store or farmer's market. They can also eat turnip greens, and then vegetables such as like bell peppers and carrots, occasionally squash and strawberries, blueberries, things like that. Oh, and celery and cucumber.
So what we mean by salad is, I guess we should go ahead and point this out, because that word salad is often used, and when I think of salad, I think of iceberg lettuce with pepperoni slices, ham slices, ranch dressing. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking of salad. What we're talking about when we say salad for bearded dragons is actually a salad without lettuce as its base. Instead of incorporating like iceberg lettuce or leaf lettuce, you want to replace those things with, like she said, good leafy vegetables like mustard greens, collard greens, turnip greens.
Yeah, and we've done a bearded dragon nutrition video, and we've covered all of this in that video before. So if you want to go back and kind of look at everything, and because we've discussed salads and protein for bearded dragons too. So
that's what we mean when we're talking about salads. We're not talking about lettuce based salads. We're talking about good vegetable salads. Now, one of the most important things, and this is something that we stress over and over again, we want to talk about purchasing a dragon initially, because if you go to a dealer or a pet shop or a pet store or whatnot, and you buy a bearded dragon that has not been well started, you're going to have issues in this area. There's just almost no way to avoid it. Now, I remember the time we went to a pet store down in Florida, and I'm not going to mention the name of the city because I think it's the only pet store in the town. And my purpose for this video is not to trash any pet store. But you remember the one we went to down at the beach that year? We walked in, we were looking at their bearded dragons. They were set up on carpet, the real loose fiber carpet, and they had a bowl of actual salad. I mean, it looked like the bag salad that you buy at Walmart that's got the leafy lettuce and the sliced up carrots. You remember that? And we saw that and we thought, you know what? The sad thing is someone's going to walk into this shop. They're going to see the way this dragon is set up in the shop. They're going to see what they're feeding it. They're going to go home. They're going to put that dragon on nasty, loose fiber carpet so their claws can get all hung up in the threads and things. They look at that salad. They think, well, they sell this at Publix or at Walmart, and the little salad section's already cut up and all. And people would assume that this is what we should bring home and feed to our dragon, when nothing could be further from the truth. So just because a pet shop has their dragon set up a certain way, just because they are feeding it a certain way, doesn't necessarily mean that is the way that you should do it at home. We've also made probably one of our most viewed videos ever began with us talking about not mimicking a lot of what you see in some of these pet shops. Not all of the pet shops out there really know what they're doing.
They have so much to take care of in their stores already that when it comes to the animals, they're going to pick the easiest, the quickest fix, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to open a bag of salad up, toss it in a cage, than it is to actually get up and every morning and prepare salads like you. She prepares all of our salads here.
They're gonna pick what's most convenient. Dragons. Sorry, that's the words I was trying to pick earlier. They're gonna pick the most convenient thing that they can use, which oftentimes is not the most nutrient dense.
Yeah. So again, the importance is choosing a dragon somewhere that it has been started properly. The most important thing is for you as a consumer to find out what it is a dragon actually needs. And then before you purchase the dragon, make sure that the supplier you're getting it from is already making that dragon. Get them used to it, get them started off. Now, one of the things that we do here, we don't feed a dragon, we don't sell a dragon until they're several weeks old. And the reason why is because of the importance of getting that dragon off to a good start. I mean, we could sell dragons much cheaper right out of the egg. We could let them hatch out. We could sell them to the public for $40-$50 like some of the big chain stores do. But it takes time for us to get our dragons prepared to go to market. And it takes time and a lot of effort, a lot of tedious cutting up their vegetables and all of those things. So that is one thing that we suggest right off the bat. Whether you choose a dragon from us, whether you choose your dragon from a shop, you want to already know what that dragon needs. Make sure that you're getting a dragon that's well started, that has already been used to doing what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Now,
the best way to have a dragon to continue to eat salad throughout its entire life is to start them off. Like as soon as our dragons come out of the egg, we're already introducing salad into their life. It's almost like, raising a child. I mean, I don't have a child, but I have enough siblings. Okay, we'll just count. But like, how it is if you don't start feeding a child, their greens and their veggies and you're just feeding them processed food all the time. Later on in life, whenever they realize when they have all these health problems that they need to start eating actually like nutrient dense foods, when they need to start eating their salad, they need to start eating healthier things. They're not going to want to eat it. They're like, why would I do that? Like, this tastes way better and this is what I'm used to, so I'm just going to continue doing this. It's the same thing with dragons.
Yeah, get them started off in the very beginning.
Also, I apologize if my voice sounds really bad because we've been going through a cold right now, so I'm very congested. So.
Yeah, hey, I think they'll forgive us. Anyway, all right. So the next thing is we want to talk about maybe every now and then we get messages from people, and sometimes they're even customers of ours, and they will say to us, "I don't think my dragon is eating their salad." And our number one culprit for that is volume.
Yeah.
It
depends on how big the dragon is versus how big the salad is. Sometimes people will feed a dragon that's like this big, a salad that's also this big.
Yeah.
But
tell you what, grab a baby dragon real quick. I want to show you guys. I'm going to demonstrate to you something. And believe it or not, we see this all the time. And I'm not showing you this because I want to make anybody feel bad. I'm not showing you this because I want to make anybody feel stupid. But we've got this question so many times. Now, this is a young baby dragon. You see how tiny this little dragon is. Hey there, buddy. So this little guy here would be almost the size we would want to sell a dragon. Now, we would want to get them a little bigger than this. But nevertheless, this dragon here is eating vegetables. And it is eating roaches and crickets and things and mealworms. Yes, the Facebook groups can hate me later, but yes, this little baby dragon is eating and digesting mealworms as they can. And anyway, that being said, if we sold a dragon this size, we've had it happen so many times, somebody will call us back and they'll go, "Hey, I don't think my dragon is eating their vegetables." And I'll usually ask a question like, how much are you feeding it? And I had a lady, a couple of ladies that have told me over the years, well, we give it about a cup full. Now, stop and think about a cup, a coffee cup. Think about this dragon. You could hide 5 of these dragons in a coffee cup.
Yeah.
And she was trying to place that much salad into this. She prepared it. She left it alone. She came back later and she said, "I don't think the dragon's eating it. I can't tell there's any missing."
Yeah. Also, I think we need to clarify too, because I sometimes get people asking me like, "Hey, my dragon is this many weeks old or this many months old or years old, whatever," and then they ask me, "How many mealworms do I need to feed my dragon? How many superworms do I need to feed?" As if there's like a magic number, but. I mean, ever since I started working with bearded dragons, I never knew a magic number. I was just able to look at the dragon's stomach, and then you kind of just have to guess how much can fit in there. And if they eat it and they're doing great, then over time you can kind of feed them more and more. Of course, when they're adults, I mean, you don't want to overfeed them, but really just get a look at their stomach and just think, okay, how much food reasonably could fit in there?
Yeah, you see this dragon, he's really small, and his stomach is only a very tiny part of him. So if you're cutting up vegetables and you're giving him a cupful at a time, you're never going to notice any significant amount of vegetables missing if you come back and check. The size salad for a dragon about this size would probably barely cover a nickel. If you were trying to cover it up with the salad, it's going to be small because it needs to be small enough that you can actually visually see that there's some of it missing. And the other thing we don't do is we don't sit there with our face pressed up to the glass watching these animals eat. Especially when they're this size, they're a little bit skittish. They're a little nervous.
Whoever was messaging you, like saying that she was feeding her dragon a cup of whatever she was feeding him. I mean, the dragon probably ate. She just didn't even know. She didn't notice.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, if the dragon would have eaten until its belly was full, you would not notice that there was any missing. So what we recommend is small amounts. Once again, think about placing enough vegetables to cover, for a baby dragon to maybe cover the top of a nickel, and then you'll be able to see more. So it could be that your dragon is eating, you're just not noticing it if you're feeding it an extra large amount of food. It's kind of like, again, like she said, raising a child. If you put on a child's plate the portion that a guy like me would eat if you were fixing my plate, if you were giving that to a toddler, you're not going to notice much food missing. However, if you gave that same size plate to me, well, depending on what was on that plate, you'd probably know I've been there. So, something to keep in mind, that visually you want to be able to see that your dragon's eating. The other thing is we don't sit over their cage with our face pressed up to the glass watching them eat. Baby dragons are nervous. They're naturally nervous of something our size. So sometimes your presence alone can make them skittish, especially in the very beginning. They don't want to eat. They don't want their mouth full of food, because if they were to be attacked by a predator, their mouth is their first line of defense. If their mouth is full of food, they can't defend themselves. So if they don't eat in front of you right off the bat when they're babies, doesn't mean that they're not going to eat. It just simply means that they're nervous. You need to move away, leave them alone, give them some privacy, and allow them to eat.
Yeah, and I've said this before in one of our other videos. Dragons can develop preferences for certain food, like certain vegetables. Now, this is where you need to kind of figure out what food do they prefer versus, oh, I'm just like, my dragon's picky and he doesn't want to eat a salad. Like, okay, I have a bearded dragon. His name is Spike. He actually started all of this. And because I've had him for so long, I know specifically what foods he likes and what foods he doesn't like. So he does not like blueberries. Some of my other dragons, I'll feed them blueberries as a treat every now and then, but he refuses to eat them. So I just don't even give them to him anymore because it's a waste of food. He's not going to eat them. So I've learned that, but he will still eat his greens. He'll still eat his carrots and his celery. I've just learned blueberries. Don't do it. He also is not a big fan of squash either, but he'll eat everything else that I give him. So sometimes, I mean, just like people, we have certain preferences. There are certain things I don't like. There are certain things he doesn't like. That's normal.
Not much.
There
ain't much I don't like.
As long as it's, maybe one or two things, and not just saying, oh, well, my dragon just doesn't like salad, so I'm just going to feed him, crickets and mealworms the rest of his life. Yeah. So you can, later on, you'll recognize, like, hey, my dragon, doesn't like carrots. Okay, don't feed him carrots. Feed him something else then.
Yeah.
So that is normal. Sometimes you will, and sometimes you just have a dragon that's just a bottomless pit and he'll eat everything. So you never know what you're going to get.
They really do have personalities that vary like that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, though, and that's a good point, but let's build off of that for a moment. Also, dragons not only can have preferences, but they can get bored. I mean, dragons can get bored. They're just like imagine this. Imagine someone calls you to the breakfast table, and that morning for breakfast, you had, should I say grits? A lot of people watch us that live up north.
They don't even, like, what is that?
Well, let's just, for those of you who
they probably know what, they just don't eat it like we do.
Yeah, okay, so there's grits on the table. Grits and eggs. And you say, oh, awesome. If you live in the South like me, you probably say, oh, great, grits and eggs. You eat that. And then all of a sudden you're called to the supper table. to the dinner table for those of you northerner people. But you go and there's grits and eggs. The next day you wake up to breakfast, grits and eggs. Supper time, grits and eggs, grits and eggs. Oh, what are we having today? Grits and eggs. After a while, I am completely losing interest in eating, completely. Because variety, I mean, our taste buds, food is one of those simple pleasures in life that we love. I believe food is a gift that God has given us for our enjoyment and to remind us that we are fed by the hands of a creator. And taste is one of those pleasures in life that's just, it's, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, I can't imagine going through life without taste buds. Nor could I imagine going through life having to eat the same food, taste the same flavors, feel the same texture in my mouth day after day after day. Your bearded dragon's no different. We tell people all the time, don't let your dragon get bored eating vegetables. That's a good way for them to stop eating vegetables, and then it's going to be hard for you to get them to start back again. So variety as a base. The base for your vegetable salad should always be a good leafy green. But even in that, you can change it up from time to time. In other words, one time make your salad using mustard greens. Maybe do that for a week. The next week,
do like turnip greens.
Collard
greens or something like that.
1 week
you
can do some.
Even when you chop up the little vegetables, like even though I give people a list of vegetables they can use, I don't mean that you have to use every single one for every single
time.
salad. You can choose 2 for a day, and then the next day choose a different 2.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Keep it interesting. If you're using bell peppers, maybe use a green bell pepper for a week. The next week, switch over, use an orange, maybe use a yellow, maybe use a red, and so forth. In other words, color seems to play a big role in attracting a dragon to a salad. If you give them a big bowl of greens, it's like, this. But if you've got color like the orange from your carrots, the red, the yellows from your bell peppers, and she mentioned earlier blueberries and strawberries. Now, those are fruits, and we do say those need to be kept to a bare minimum. Now,
fruits are more of a treat than an everyday thing. You can feed them fruit like once a week, once every 2 weeks even.
Yes. Now, there's some other things out there, and I know people watching this, you're probably saying in your mind right now, well, what about dandelions? Dandelion greens are great for a dragon. There's no problem with them. Here in the South, people collect dandelions from the wild. They grow naturally down here. The one thing I would caution you about is fertilizer, chemicals, insecticide, things like that. So you want to make sure if you're using any kind of green or vegetables from outside, do not collect them if they've got pesticides or insecticides, things like that on them, because you're going to pass those toxins back into your dragon. Now, the other thing is people ask about so many other things. We've had people ask about cabbage, kale, and there's a lot of controversy about some of these things. Some people don't feed kale at all because there's rumors that kale causes calcium binding, things like that. What I would tell you is stick with the basic ones until there's more evidence of whether or not you can use things like kale. Some people believe you shouldn't use broccoli. I've heard people say, not to use a lot of different things. But we do know from our experience that leafy greens, mustards, collards, turnips, bell peppers, squash. Again, squash is a fruit. It can be used in small amounts. A pretty yellow vegetable that is attractive on your salad. So just kind of mix it up. Keep your fruits to a minimum. Keep your colors out there. If you have questions about things that we haven't talked about, certainly you can do some additional research on your own. Find out what are people using, what have people used for a long time without any health issues, and then go from there. There's a ton of things that could possibly be used on a salad that we haven't mentioned in the scope of this video.
Yeah.
Now, you got something?
Yeah, so one more thing I wanted to talk about was some people, we've talked about when dragons are younger that they are eating more protein, like the crickets, they're eating more mealworms, they're eating more superworms, more dubia roaches. And then as they get older, they should switch to eating more salads. And so sometimes people have a hard time transitioning. Like their dragon will be like, oh, well, I'm, again, I'm used to eating more protein, so that's what I want. A good way to get them to stop eating their protein and to start eating their salads more often is really just stop feeding them protein. I mean, that kind of sounds like common sense, but a lot of people don't like doing this. They're like, oh, I feel like I'm punishing my dragon, or, oh, it's been 3 days and he hasn't eaten anything. Your dragon's going to be fine. They can go 3 to 5 days without eating. They could even go longer than that. I don't recommend that, but they can go
for a baby
days.
dragon.
Yeah,
a baby dragon 3 to 5 days. An adult dragon could go much longer than that, but a baby dragon about 3 days without feeding is about the extent.
It's going to be okay. Like if you want to go on vacation on the weekend, you don't have to have somebody come over and feed your dragon. It's but a lot of times when people hear stop feeding them the soup worms, eventually that salad will look good enough. He'll get hungry enough. He will eat it. And then once he eats it, then you can go in with whatever protein you're feeding them. And then it's almost like a reward. So you don't want to reward bad behavior. Therefore, don't feed them until they eat their salad. I promise you they'll get hungry enough. So
yes, and that being said, I tell people this all the time, kidding. Dragons are a lot like us guys. If you set us down at a table and put a big, fat, juicy ribeye steak in front of us and let us eat that and say, now don't fill up on that steak. Later on, we're going to bring you a bowl of lettuce. Guess what all of us guys are going to do? We're going to eat our steak. We're going to forget our salad. That's why when you go to a steak shop or a steak house, they bring you the salad first. You eat that because you're anticipating this better thing that's coming next. Now, your dragon's no different. That way, and that's why we recommend feed them the vegetables in the morning. When they wake up, their lights come on, they're hungry. Offer them in the morning and withhold their protein, their meats until later on in the day. The other thing is misting your salads with water to give them moisture. A lot of times they'll come over, they'll take a bite. If it's a dragon that's not used to eating their vegetables, a lot of times that moisture will allow them to start eating their vegetables because they're enjoying the water content of that particular salad. And so that'll get them going. So a couple of things that you can try is, again, first of all, make sure you're buying your dragon from someone who's already got them well started. Number 2, keep the salads, make them pretty, make them attractive with vibrant colors. Don't get in a rut of feeding the same thing every day. Feed them their vegetables at an appropriate time of the day, first thing in the morning. And then last but not least, stay consistent. Make sure you're doing this consistent.